This is Gods, Ghosts, and UFOs. My name is Jordan, and I came up with the name of this show, so I think it's only fair that my co-hosts explain what it's about.
Oh, okay.
Fine with me.
But first, maybe introduce yourselves?
Yeah, good idea. I'm Mallory, and my day job is mostly comedy, which I think qualifies me to talk about the nature of existence.
Foundationally. And I'm Tom, and I'm a musician and an author.
And can I also just say that you tell stories like there's a crackling fire next to you all the time.
Oh.
All right, Tom, since we're getting all cozy, what's this show about?
Well, it's in the title, isn't it? Gods, Ghosts, and UFOs. It's not like these phenomena are separate from us. I think of what Alan Watts said. Consciousness is neither an isolated soul nor the mere function of a single nervous system, but of that totality of interrelated stars and galaxies that makes a nervous system possible.
Yeah, Tom's quoting Alan Watts, and I'm going to quote the great RuPaul when he said, God is the word we use for that which cannot be described. That's what we're talking about here. Miracles and mysteries and things that go bump in the night. We're just a group of big-hearted nerds with magnifying glasses.
Exactly. Let's talk about format. Every week, we're going to cover something relevant from the news.
With maybe a loose definition of news.
Let's say current events with a particular bent. And then maybe we'll get into a discussion about a related topic, or maybe we'll take a deeper dive.
And sometimes we'll bring in someone who knows way more about the thing than we do.
Yes, but even when it's just us, we promise it'll be a good time.
I mean, come on. Do you really want to talk about one more political fart? Or do you want to talk about aliens and haunted houses and giant balls of conscious plasma?
In other words, all the things they said weren't real.
Gods, Ghosts, and UFOs.
Every Friday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Part of the Spectre Vision Radio Network.
When you have a sec, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Thank you from the bottom of our dark little hearts. Every theater has a ghost. This emotionally driven institution is a container of experiences. Joy, tears, anger, passion, and death. All seeping into the brick like paint into a canvas. Its energy captivates you. It's alive with performances both past and present. It brings you into a different era, then releases you back to reality. That's why some theatergoers, actors, and staff never leave, even after their final curtain call. Welcome to All Hallows Eve. This is Geist. I met with Rhonda Collins. For years, she's worked in theater. She had a walking stick and a beautiful demeanor about her. She embodied the energy of getting it done. You could tell she had worked on so many productions. She came in, she was ready, and boy, did she deliver.
I've been working in theater, film, and television for many, many years. I'm retired now. I worked in mostly theater to begin with, but more than 50 years now, I think, that I've actually done it. Costume designer, wig builder, makeup artist. It's been fun, and I've made a lot of wonderful friends along the way, and it's just, like I said, working in great places, like great theaters, all over Toronto, actually all over Canada. Well, my mom wanted to be a Disney artist, and she also was caught up in the old Hollywood concept. So as I grew up, she loved Disney and I loved Warner Brothers, so our styles were completely different. But she did love opera, and even when we were little kids, she used to play opera all the time during the day on records. When I came into doing costume design, I ended up working with people at the opera, and I felt at home. It felt very much at home. And my mom was very proud. We're Scottish Canadian, and we have our family background. We've always kind of been into, like, or aware of ghosts. But when I got to theater and I heard people talking about the stories, it was just I found it more exciting and thrilling and like, oh, that's so cool, as opposed to being scary. Most people who find it frightening, they'll actually either poo-poo it or they run away from it, and it's just, they're missing out. So when you're working on a show, especially if it's a long-running show, you end up working hand in pocket with these people for like 8 shows a week, and you're working extremely hard, and you're choreographing your work around each other to make it a success. So Lion King is a very good example. If you're on that stage trying to do a fast change on a zebra and you're in the wrong place, well, you could get killed. Everybody has to know exactly what they're doing. The stagehands, the performers, the hair and makeup people, the props people. Everyone works so closely coordinated that at the end of the day, basically, you're beating with one heart. So when you had to end a show, that's why it hurts so much. It is like losing a family member, or like, just saying goodbye, and you never know whether you're going to see the person again. Social media has really helped a lot with that.
The folklore and superstitions surrounding the theater is really quite fascinating, and it's not a joke. Performers are truly affected by them. A bad dress rehearsal means that the show will be a hit. Blue should never be worn on stage, never light a trio of candles, never leave the theater without turning on the ghost light. They all have backstories, and the list goes on.
There are so many superstitions surrounding theater. People know about don't whistle backstage, it's bad luck. Well, that's because back in times of Elizabethan theater, they used to hire sailors to come in and work ropes to move pieces of scenery, back and forth in the theater. And sailors communicate by whistling. If you're downstairs, on main stage and you're whistling a song, somebody up top hears a whistle and they go, oh, that means drop the sandbag now. And you could kill somebody. You're not supposed to have live animals or live flowers or plants on stage. Bad luck. Well, think about it. A live animal on stage, they can poop. They can, you don't know whether that dog is going to go, here, there, everywhere. Live flowers, there's water, there's electrics, there's all sorts. It's just common sense. But there are some that are wonderfully weird. And you never ever mention the name of the Scottish play backstage.
The Scottish play that she's referring to is famously known as Macbeth.
If you said it backstage, it's a cursed play, and you would have to be made to go outside the dressing room, turn around 3 times, spit, swear, and then ask to come back in.
And like I said, some of these actors took it quite seriously.
I had this one performer, I loved her dearly. His name was Margaret Hamilton. And she was a big woman with a very deep, deep voice. She would just freak, you're out of here. And she wouldn't let you back in until you had turned around 3 times, spit, and sworn.
I just said it. Should I stand up and...
No, you're fine, because you're not working in the theater right now. It's only when you got the brick and mortar theater around you and you're in a situation that calls for a ghost to...
Okay, so I'm safe.
Yeah. You're going to send flowers to a performer, which is a lovely thing, but flowers are never to be given before a performance. Never. You can send them over to you, and they'll hold them at the stage door, because it means you will give a lackluster performance if you get flowers before you go on. And also, you never send a bouquet of red and white flowers. Never send red and white roses or roses with baby's breath, because red and white symbolizes bandages and blood.
Flowers indicate a successful performance, so giving an actor a bouquet of flowers before the curtain falls could tempt fate for accidents and mishaps. It is considered good luck, however, at the end of a production to give the director a bouquet of flowers that have been stolen from a graveyard. I kind of love that one. Go figure.
Oh, the ghost light. The ghost light's called that for a reason. I mean, it was lit on stage and it was left there all night. It's meant so you don't trip over things. But the ghost light always stays on for the ghosts. Let you know we still know you're here.
Rhonda's description of each theater influenced my imagination. It's like I was there. I could see the audience, I could hear the room echo, and I could feel the presence. And as luck would have it, she had a couple of stories about the presence that were encountered.
I love older theaters. They just, there's a charm to them. And there's a history to them. You can feel it in the bricks when you walk in. The Royal Alexandra Theatre on King Street in Toronto is it's a wonderful old theater. Backstage, it is an old theater. There are no big elevators that take you up to the 3rd, 4th, 5th floor. You have to walk up these cast cement stairs. There are a lot of ghosts there. The one who plays with the chandeliers on the 5th floor in the wig room. We would be sitting there quietly and just talking about something, and somebody would hear a little creaking noise, and then the chandeliers would start to swing back and forth, like very gently. And then they would suddenly just stop swinging, like somebody put a hand up to stop them. First, like, okay, well, we've got somebody here. And we just basically would always say, hi, how you doing? Hope you're having a good night, and leave it at that.
The Alexander is known for the ghosts of the fly floor.
Now, the fly floor is a floor that's built very, very high up in the top rafters of the theater over the stage. That's where all the high ropes and the pieces of scenery are hauled up and kept. It takes a skilled people to work the fly floor. You have to walk along gantryways and you have to be careful. One of them is a lady, which you'll see when you're standing below the fly floor and you happen to look up. You might hear the clicking of heels on the gantry, and you look up and you'll see from up to the knees, you'll see a woman's high-heeled shoes and the bottom of a skirt sort of swaying. It looks like a 1950s sort of like spiky heel shoe. And the first thing you'd think of is, why would you wear those shoes up there? And the second thing is like, wait a minute, I'm not seeing anything other than legs walking along this entryway. It seems that there's a ghost, and I have not seen this one, but the flymen have seen this one. And it's a ghost of a fly person, a guy that used to work there. He passed away on the fly floor. And they say he's still there. He's still working the flies. They see him leaning over and looking down. He worked the theater and he doesn't want to leave the theater. He's still there. And I love that. The most outstanding haunting was an actor. He's a British actor. His name was John Bennett. He was, if you Google him, he was in Doctor Who. That's the first time I ever saw him. He was in Doctor Who.
This actor also had encounters.
It was 1997, and it was the musical Jolson. There's a trapdoor in the floor of the stage that he was supposed to come up through. So when he's making his entrance, he has to go down into the basement under the stage, which is kind of a weird area anyway. And it is very, very dark, as you can imagine. He had one small light set up by his chair that he was supposed to be sitting in on the lift that's supposed to take him up through the stage. So he would get down there at least 10 minutes earlier and get into the chair and he'd sit. And you can hear the orchestra playing just off. In the orchestra pit would be slightly off to the right. And you can hear the actors clumping out above your head. And one night he was sitting there and he looked over, he said there was a man sitting in a chair about 10 feet away from him. He was wearing a costume from the 1760s, 1780s. He looked like a character from a Molière play with a full-bottomed wig and the lace at the throat and the cuffs. And he looked over at him, and he kept putting his hand up, going, shush, shush, kept putting his finger up to his lips to shush him. And Mr. Bennett was like, who the hell is this person? Because he thought it was part of the production, like some guy had wandered in costume. Then, of course, he gets his cue. He opens, the chair goes up, he goes on, they do the scene. And he comes off, and the first thing he does is he goes to stage manager and says, there's somebody in the basement. And they ran down, and of course, there's nobody there. There's no chair, there's no nothing. And it turns out that a few other people have seen this character in the basement. He swore it was a person. He said, that you're not telling me that was a ghost. That was a person. He knew it was a ghost afterwards, when we finally convinced him that nobody could just get in there with a chair and a full costume. It's a shame. Mr. Bennett passed away not too long ago, which is a shame, because I'd love to have found out if he'd had any more experiences like that during his run here. The Elgin Winter Garden Theatres is a rare thing in this world. It was 2 theaters that were built. One was on top of the other. And they used to have wonderful vaudeville shows, and they had silent movies with a small orchestra. And it was, again, it's a terrific thing.
Built in 1913, the complex was a Canadian flagship of Marcus Lowe's legendary theatre chain. Designed by Thomas Lamb as a double-decker theatre complex, it contained the Winter Garden Theatre, constructed on top of the Elgin Theatre. The 2 theatres had distinctly different personalities. The Elgin was all gold leaf and rich fabrics, a formal theatre of plaster cherubs and ornate opera boxes. The Winter Garden is a botanical fantasy. Its walls hand-painted to resemble a garden, its ceiling a mass of fake flowers and twinkling lanterns. The theaters have played host to greats such as George Burns and Gracie Allen, Sophie Tucker, and Milton Berle.
It ran out of money, and the owners closed the door. They simply turned the key and walked away. And it sat there, moldering for for decades, until somebody realized it was there.
With the decline of vaudeville, the Winter Garden closed in 1928. It remained closed for half a century, becoming a time capsule of the bygone era. The Elgin, with its grand domed ceilings, continued as a movie house, gradually slipping into despair with the passing of each decade. In December 1989, the Elgin and Winter Garden Theatres reopened.
And then they opened the doors, and the Elgin was in rough shape. Then when they went upstairs to the Winter Garden, it was a time capsule for the period, because they opened the doors and it was just glowing with hanging artificial flowers and paintings on the ceilings. And both of them are great little theaters. We've done a lot of work there. We've done a lot of shows there. As far as hauntings go, there are so many in those 2 theaters that I love. The story of is the Lilac Lady. There is a section of the Elgin Theatre that's an old section, old dressing rooms, very tiny, beautiful little white lacquered brick building. You will at times catch whiff of lilacs, not perfume, but true, honest to God, in the spring, lilacs on a sunny day. And it just catches you completely unaware. It's so strong. And then it's gone. There was a woman who used to work there as a cleaner. She was a younger woman, and when she started, she worked there for many, many years. And she was Italian, and she used to bring in the spring, great armloads every day of fresh bouquets of lilacs when they were in season from her garden. And she would sometimes boil the flowers in the hallways because the scent was so lovely. Dressing rooms, when you think about it, they're sweaty. She would do that just to make the place smell lovely. think she probably felt that she was a big part. That's part of being a family of the theater. And to this day, you will be in there, and it could be in the middle of January. And it'll be a quiet moment, and you'll be in that old section, and then you get this whiff of lilac. Your heart just sort of lifts. It really is beautiful. Well, when they were renovating, first they started with the Elgin because they wanted to use the Elgin for the production of Cats. They've renovated it, and when they first started using it for Cats, there was an area downstairs that they didn't open to the public early. It's now open. It's a public washroom, but they used the washroom for some of the girls coming off stage in Cats. They would come off stage. They'd run downstairs to this basically a dressing room with mirrors and sinks, and they would just touch themselves up, powder themselves down, correct their wigs. And it got to be common knowledge among the ladies of the chorus that there was somebody in that dressing room with them. They would be sitting, they would be talking, they would be doing their changes, and they would get a glimpse in the mirror of a young woman. And she would look up at them, look startled, and then when they looked at her, she wouldn't be there. She'd gone. She was dressed sort of like a, very casual. She had a cloche hat with beads, and she was had the permed hair. They said she looked very 1920s, like a flapper. They started looking into it, like stage management, bless them, looked into it. And there had been a murder back in the 1920s that had never been solved of a young woman. They never found the killer.
One of the most famous ghosts is known as the Lavender Lady, who resides upstairs in the Winter Garden. It is said a young lady was stabbed in the washroom and managed to stagger her way into the lobby and press the elevator button. Back then, elevators were manual and were operated by a person. So when the elevator operator got to the top floor and opened the door, the lady laid there dead. Now sometimes the air fills with the scent of lavender. On occasion, the people in the box office have seen the apparition of a young lady in her 20s, hair tied up in a bun. It is obvious that she's been in a struggle due to her disheveled appearance.
Stage managements, I love them. They do one of the hardest jobs in theater. They keep everybody in line. They make sure the show goes correctly and no one gets hurt and the audience gets the best experience.
One of the biggest ghostly performances is from the stage manager, which Rhonda likes to call him.
What happens with us, usually it's in the Elgin. And oddly enough, usually it happens most often whenever we were doing Mozart at the Elgin with the opera company. I'll tell you, this particular one doesn't brook fooling around or goofing off backstage. And we'll do little things to performers that, just a reminder to keep, toe the line. I've had one outstanding experience there. There was one time, and it was opera, and we were doing Mozart's The Magic Flute. We're not allowed to take breaks because you can't leave the building.
They were fearful of missing their cues, so breaks were taken locally inside the building.
So we would take our cigarette break as best we could. We would go to the fly floor level and we would exit down. There's a long corridor where there's one dressing room at the end, like maybe 6 or 7 of us at a time. We would go out there for a very quick cigarette break when we knew our cues were in control.
Continued through a long series of hallways, they would land at the fire escape.
One night we went out and I was standing there with 4 or 5 other people and the one makeup artist who was doing the Queen of the Night. And the Queen of the Night's aria is unbelievably difficult.
In opera, an aria is a self-contained piece for a solo voice, so basically an opera solo. Rhonda had explained that the actress was feeling a lot of pressure due to the complexity of the piece, so her makeup artist took special care to make sure she was perfect to go on. Most importantly, her lipstick.
Her makeup artist would go down, and just before she went on for her big aria, he would go down and make sure that she was looking perfect, and her lipstick was flawless. That was the one thing she really had to know, that she looked good and her lipstick was good. So he came out with us, and we were standing outside, and he was talking about this, and we were talking about that.
Then, out of nowhere,
at the steel door, which was closed, 3 very loud bangs. And we all jumped because it was so loud. And so I went and I opened the door, and there was nobody there. We basically just shrugged it off, closed the door, and went back to talking with my friend. It happened again. And you could see the door moving. It was hitting so loud that we thought you might be able to hear it in the theater. That's how loud it was. So he went and he opened the door. Nobody there. So he went in, and I went with him, and we walked down that long corridor. And there was a dresser at the far end, sitting outside of that little dressing room. And we said, "What's going on? Who's banging the door?" And she said, "What are you talking about?" And we said, "Well, who's been banging the exit door?" And she's, "I don't know what you're talking about." At this moment, we heard the music, and it was almost time for him to run down to the stage and get to her lipstick check. And if he'd been outside for any more time, he would have missed his cue. But he heard the music, and he ran downstairs, got to her lips in time. Everything was fine. We figured it was somebody was letting us know that he better get his butt in there. When you're working opera, you don't get cues over the microphone backstage. Like cue, make up to stage right. You don't get that. You have to listen and know the music. This is why we figured it was a stage manager, because they would definitely be all over it.
the stage manager liked to keep order backstage.
The ladies' chorus dressing room in the Elgin it's a big dressing room. It's got a lovely area in the middle, and it's all surrounded by mirrors, with each mirror having a set of lights. One bar turns them all on. And I believe it was a matinee, because I was thinking everyone was kind of in a soft mood. Matinees, Sundays, you were always kind of in a soft mood. This one girl was late. She was very late, and it's really unnerving to see one person not there. And the ladies of the chorus are getting ready. This girl comes flying in, and she was just livid. She bangs her way on. She goes, "Get out of my way! Nobody talk to me!" And she takes off her coat. She throws it down, and she starts taking her clothes off. And she said, "Everything I did, I couldn't get the car started. The TTC was backed up. I couldn't get a cab." And she was going on like this. And we figured, okay, let her go, let her rant. And she sits down. She finally gets her costume on. She sits down, picks up her sponge, and her mirror lights go dark. It is weird, because the mirror lights for one mirror don't go off. You turn them all off or all on at once. It's like Christmas lights. You unplug the one, they all go out. And she sat back, took a deep breath, exhaled, went, "All right, guys, everybody, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. It will never happen again." And her lights came back on. So that's why I'm sure as a stage manager.
The stage manager didn't like goofing around, and he let them know.
And again, it was Mozart. a tenor, Canadian tenor. Really, really lovely guy was singing the lead. He is renowned for his presence, his voice, and the fact that when he's backstage, he is a bit of he likes to pull pranks. Not in a harmful way, but in a very, very funny way. One of his leading ladies has to open a scroll and read it while she's singing. And of course, he's pasted a really silly picture of him in diapers making a funny face at her into the scroll. And she has to look at it all the time she's singing, that kind of thing. It was funny because I laughed. I said, we have a stage manager ghost here that might not be so thrilled if you keep it up. And he was in his dressing room and he kind of like, he said, nah, he said, stage managers, they always have a great sense of humor. They love me. And at this point, there was a fan in his dressing room and the fan turned off. I looked at him and he looked at me and I said, I don't think they like it. So he kind of laughed and he said, fine, I'm sorry. And the fan turned back on again.
Despite Rhonda's warning, he decided his practical jokes must go on.
The thing is, he did pull a practical joke. He came back in, he sat in the dressing room and I'm taking his wig off. The fan turned off again. And he went and he looked, he said, I'm sorry. It didn't turn back on again. And he said, I'm really, really sorry. No, didn't turn back on again. So I said, seriously, you're going to have to genuinely apologize and stop doing it. Then there was this weird sound that came from his washroom, gurgling sound that came out of the sink. He actually stopped smiling and said, I am seriously sorry. And the fan turned back on. We've never found out if it was a stage manager. It could be just somebody who didn't like the idea that you were making fun backstage because you were putting the production at risk. That's what that means. You can have fun backstage, but you can't do it when it comes to presenting something on that stage in front of people. I said stage management because they're the obvious choice. For every time we would be there and do an opera, especially it was Mozart, we would hang a big sprig of rosemary for remembrance. Let the stage manager know that we knew you were there. We know you're looking out for us.
One evening, Rhonda and a few of her colleagues went upstairs to the Winter Garden to take in the atmosphere. But they weren't the only ones.
There was a time, and that was, again, I was working downstairs in one of the operas. I was there with about 3 friends, and we were going to go up and check out the Winter Garden just to see it. The look of it is just beautiful. Because we had, I think it was an hour between rehearsal and shows. There's a lovely display that's just off to the side. And it's the display of some of the old equipment that they found there when they opened it. And it's the old projector and the old lights. Just into the crevice over by stage left. And we could stand there and you could look out into the house, but there's a ghost light on. As we're standing there, one by one in the front row, the seats went down. And we watched that for, it must have been 5 minutes. Then they started to go back up again. And then a few minutes later, it would happen in another row over. A couple of seats would go down. Then they come back up again. And we were all kind of hanging on to each other, like our fingernails digging into each other's arms. Like, it looked as though you had people moving in and out and sitting down. And I'm thinking now, do you know what? That's exactly what it would look like if we were in the theater rehearsing. During rehearsals, that's what we do. The crew, we go up front. We want to see it under lights, and we'll go and we'll sit in the house and we'll watch it for 5-10 minutes. Then we go back up. The sound crew might come and sit in a couple seats in front and check the sound, and they get up and go. That might have been somebody who was watching a rehearsal. I miss the theater a lot. I really do. I mean, I'm old and I love to go, but I miss the work of the theater and just the camaraderie. I am so grateful for the time I had doing it. But seriously, if I could stand physically to do it, I would do it tomorrow. There's a lot of ghosts that actually show up that it seems that they were there and they died someplace else, but now they're back in the theater. And it shows you the attraction, the sense of family, the sense of belonging. It's like a concentration of that energy in theater. There's so many people that can experience that same phenomenon at the same time. Something happens in the theater that's weird like that, and you're not going to be by yourself. And it's funny, you can walk into a theater and you'll feel it. Theater is alive, and the energy is so high. I feel the reason they're there is because they found it essential to be there. It's kindred spirits. It's water finding its own level. Well, I've got so many places I would like to haunt. Theater's one of them, but which one?
A very special thanks to Rhonda, the Elgin and Winter Garden Theater, and the Alexandra Theater for sharing their stories and their ghosts. Do you have a story you've been hiding? Submit it to us at hello.geist.podcast@gmail.com. Both written and recorded submissions are welcome. Geist is written and directed by Danielle Matar. Original music and FX by Beau Jensen. Mixing and sound by Adam Esker. Geist logo is by Jake Carruthers. Follow us on all social media platforms at Geist_podcast. Thank you for joining us on All Hallows Eve. And until next time, sleep tight.
Now receiving frequency transmission.
One of the most interesting ideas about ghosts was proposed by Andrew Lang, who was a fascinating polymath and author. He was one of the co-founders of the Society for Psychical Research, who took one of the first sort of forensic and scientific approaches to gathering and cataloging accounts of ghosts. And in 1897, he collected them in an amazing volume called The Book of Dreams and Ghosts. And in the Book of Dreams and Ghosts, Lang proposed the unique idea that ghosts may be the effect or the emanation caused by a dead person dreaming, and in effect projecting into the mind of those living. And that's a fascinating concept, that when you encounter what seems to be a ghost, you may actually be making contact with a dead person dreaming.
Transmission complete. Stay tuned to Spectrovision Radio. Stay.